Welcome to Business Mastery with Don Kennedy, your quick under 45-minute dose of expert insights and strategies to make a positive impact on your business and life. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. So AI is everywhere. AI stories are dominating the news, and lots of small businesses are using AI, but they're using them as a Google search. So I have Ricky on here today. We're going to be talking about really what it can be used for and why we're using it wrong and how we can maybe make some adjustments in how we use AI to better benefit our businesses. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thanks to you, Don, for inviting me.
Can you tell everyone who you are and who you serve?
Yeah, my name is Ricky, and I'm the founder of a AI startup in San Francisco called SourceReady. We're a venture-backed company focused on helping large retailers, brands, importers automate their product sourcing process. So you can think about this as we can get you from an idea to factory fully automated. So everything from helping you think of what ideas to sell, to helping you find the right factories globally to make them, help you calculate the tariffs, and then ultimately, even the AI will help negotiate with factories for you. So that's ultimately what our tool does. I've been working kind of broadly in the supply chain and technology space for over 10 years now. I started a company before this, also in the supply chain technology space, which I sold 2.5 years ago to a large private equity called TreeLab. And then after selling it, I started SourceReady soon after. I guess the main pain point that we're trying to solve is that many small businesses, and large companies,
Yeah.
have a huge challenge finding the right manufacturer for their products.
Right.
And right now, with what's happening globally with tariffs and everything, it's even making the whole situation more complicated, right? So if you want to make, let's say, this ceramic cup, do you want to go to China for that, or do you want to go to Mexico, or do you want to go to Vietnam? And all these different countries have different benefits and detriments. And even if, let's say, you did figure out that you want to go to Vietnam, how do you actually find the supplier's contact information? How do you know which suppliers to reach out to? And I think this is something that we believe AI has the huge potential to solve, and can really make this entire journey much easier.
Amazing. So do you also do domestic supply sourcing? So I just want to make sure we're really clear. So we know that there's a lot of complication with language barriers and contract terms and things if we were to go international, but those same barriers could be here if you're crossing state lines.
Yes.
Right.
So we do have suppliers domestically in the US. I do think that the challenge with sourcing in the US is that there are only certain categories and products in which the US still has a manufacturing base. So yes, but yes, to answer your question, we do have suppliers in the US.
All right. So we titled this, I guess, or we talked about it, AI is not a Google search. So let's just kind of start there because people are treating their AI, we'll just call them general chatbots.
Yep.
I don't know who everybody uses, right? Because there's so many of them now. Just general chatbots, and they're using them like a Google search. So can we just kind of talk the difference between a Google search and like an AI prompt?
Yeah, so I think the number one difference is if you think about how Google search works, is it tries to surface the best resources or links for that particular query. And with AI, if you can chat with the AI and kind of use it for a similar function, but I think AI is a lot more powerful than just surfacing information. I think the biggest reason why AI has gotten such a big and I guess hype around it is its ability to reason, and even now the ability to execute certain actions. So I think most businesses just use it as a search prompt because when they see that search bar, they just assume that that's all the AI can do. But I think the companies or individuals that are using AI the best is they actually think of AI more like a digital employee or like a digital assistant. And if you think about an assistant, searching for things is just one of the many things that an assistant can do for you. And I think if you kind of broaden the landscape of understand that actually other than surfacing the links, the AI can also, for example, integrate with the tools that you use and actually take the next step. So, a simple example of this is like you can use AI to maybe ask, "Oh, find these suppliers in Vietnam that can make this product." That's one thing that AI can do. But if you want to take it a step further, is why don't you actually have AI reach out to those suppliers and negotiate for you? And I think most people don't even understand how they would even do that. And that's part of the reason why, the Gemini and ChatGPT and these tools, they're great. But there are actually a myriad of other tools out there that are AI enabled that can do even more than the general chatbots. Like, for example, this is why we exist, right? We want to enhance the experience of AI beyond of just a simple search. So I think that's one thing. Second thing is um, there's AI that is so chatbots are typically the most common form of AI that people interact with. But I think that the drive since 2025 or the trend of where the industry is going is towards agents. So if you think about the difference between agents and chatbots, is chatbots are not persistent. And that's a more technical term, but essentially what that means is anytime you want the AI to do something, you have to prompt it. You have to explain what you want. But if you think about, if you were to like hire an assistant, imagine if your assistant forgets everything that you told it about every single time you ask it a new question and you have to re-explain yourselves every time. That'd be insane, right? So agents actually, first of all, have long-term memory. And second of all, you can actually train an agent to work 24/7 but in the background doing some form of work that you predefine. So you can give it a high level goal. Say, I want to figure out how to find 10 customer leads in the next 6 months. And these are the places in which I typically do. So one way to do it is just to ask the AI like a search engine. That's just like the traditional way people do it. The other way is I'm going to give my agent access to all these tools. Google search might be one of the tools it uses. It can also use other tools. And I'm just gonna let the AI go off on its own and figure out how to do it, right? Even maybe I don't even know how the AI is gonna do it. And the AI doesn't know how it's gonna do it. It's gonna explore, it's gonna test different things until it's able to reach its goal. So where we see the industry moving is instead of explicitly telling the AI what to do, you give an AI a goal and then you give it the tools to do it. And then you basically let AI go off on its own and execute just like a human would. Um, and I think that is really where AI has a really direct impact on the business because then you start treating it less like just a glorified search engine and you start treating it like actually an end-to-end automation platform.
There was a recent story even on the consumer side where a programmer built an agent for himself. I don't know what excuse me, what he did exactly, but I read the story and it was on the news. It actually made the news that the thing was he was looking for a car and this thing went out, sourced the car, reached out to dealerships and negotiated like $4,500 off the sales price. Obviously, it can't enter into contracts or anything, but imagine being able to do that with your business where, behind the scenes, you wake up or you
Yep.
give it a task and the next morning it's like, "Oh, I have these 3 options." And the more variables you feed and the more that you're able to niche down and what I have found also, because I use it for market research quite a bit, is that it'll pop up things I didn't even know that I needed to consider, and go after that. So, let me ask you as far as, the sourcing and things like that, I can tell you from somebody who owns a products-based family business and has to source things from all over the place, there's a trust factor. There's a trust factor that this thing is gonna do what it's supposed to do because, unfortunately, the news, if it bleeds, it leads. It's only telling you about when it goes rogue, or when it goes and does things it's not supposed to. I rarely get to hear these amazing stories like the car purchase story in the news. So can we talk a little bit about trusting these agents? Because we know that they can come back and they could go, "Oops, I'm sorry," or it could say, "Oh, I misunderstood your question," and it'll tell you that, but it's not a sentient being in the fact that it'll recognize its mistakes and I think that's where there may be a lot of resistance in allowing this back end operation, which would be incredibly efficient and likely really help, um, cut down not only the processing time and things, but to get the best pricing and to protect
Yep.
margins.
So I think you brought up a very good point. I think I have two things that I think, from my perspective, would the way to think about this. Like number one is, I don't think AI right now is mature enough or consistent enough to actually make high stake decisions. So like as you mentioned, that car example, the AI is not actually sending out the purchase order or actually we're actually purchasing the car, right? All it's doing is it's getting you all the offers in a way that makes it easy for you to make a decision. So right now, I think in terms of the tasks in which I would give the AI free reign to do are tasks in which no decision is being made. So that's number one.
Okay.
Number two is humans make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
I think people are overly biased against AI because it's a new form of entity, and it's almost as if it's like how like looking down on AI is somehow going to save careers and stuff. Like I completely disagree. Like I think that humans will always be around and always have value because of the fact that AI can't take responsibility. So whether it does something right or does something wrong, AI doesn't get anything out of it, right? It's basically servicing some human who gave it the goal. So I think if you think about it like that, just like how if you were to hire someone, they could make a mistake. How do you guarantee? There's no guarantee for anything. That's why you check their work, right? Even if you were to hire a human today, are you not going to check their work? Are you just going to believe everything they say? So I think if you put it that way, then it really comes about like how do you become a good manager? So like using AI well is similar to being a good manager. You have to know what tasks you should and can delegate, and you also have to understand how to check work. And checking work just means how did the AI get to the conclusion it got to? What steps and traces did it do in the middle for it to come to that final conclusion? And you have to check that to see if it adheres to whatever logic you have. But I think it's you will miss out a lot if like let's say AI messes up 0.5% of the time. And because of that 0.5%, you're kind of forfeiting the other 99.5. I think that doesn't make sense at all. It's just like saying I'm going to hire an employee, and if he messes up once, I'm going to forget all the other benefits or good things that he has done. That doesn't make sense. Like you have to look at it from a holistic perspective. And I do think that's the way that people should be looking at these agents or AI.
Okay, so now we're going to get to the other piece of checking its work, right? So when you said earlier, well, AI might not even know how it's going to approach the task, or it might do it differently than a human. Is there some resistance? Are you seeing something, especially with more seasoned business owners who have been doing this a particular way for a while, where they're like, I don't maybe feel comfortable managing it, or if I can't follow the logic? Because are you seeing maybe in the future that there will be organizations that have kind of an agent management sort of function role, maybe even fractionally across several companies? I could kind of see that, sort of how you have fractional people that are niche into particular management tasks in a business. Because I can tell you the idea of managing AI could feel a little overwhelming if you're not somebody who's super tech savvy or feels comfortable with the platform. So, what do we do around our own limits in the skill of being able to manage an agent?
Yeah, I think that will become one of the most important skills of the 21st century. It's just like saying today, if you don't know how to use a computer, what will happen? Well, if you don't know how to use a computer, then it's probably going to be very hard for you to find a job in a desk environment. I
Right.
think AI is similar. Right now, we are still in the very early stage of the adoption curve. So as a result, if you don't know how to use AI today, you could probably get away with it because many companies aren't fully on board yet. But if you close your eyes and wait 10 years, I do believe that every company in the world is going to be embracing AI to the full extent that we embrace computers today. And this is why this is a skill to learn. Like you just have to learn it. If you don't learn it, then you're kind of behind on what it takes to be successful in this 21st century. So that's my first perspective. And I think the second thing is I actually think managing AI is easier than managing humans because as I mentioned, when you manage a human, there are many things outside of just objective work that you have to manage.
Right.
There are emotions, right? Every human has different motivations. You have to take that into consideration. And I think the benefit of AI is you don't have to think about that. The AI's only wish and goal is to serve you for whatever goal you have. You don't have to think about its emotions. You don't have to think about all these other things. And I think like when you talked about like the checking the work, AI actually does a better job than most humans at showing what they did. So like if you use any AI agent, it will show you at every step of the way the reasoning trace. Like, oh, I did this. Oh, it didn't work out. Okay, now let me try this. Like it actually like speaks out loud what it's doing throughout the process. And I would say it's not that hard to understand because it's just speaking natural language, right? Like it's literally it's explaining to you what it's doing at every step of the way and how it got to each conclusion. Um, I think with humans, and going back to the example, I think most people actually don't do a very good job explaining what they did. They'll give you a conclusion and you have to go ask them proactively, how did you get to that? So, and this is why, like, if you look at AI agents on the market today, almost all of them show you reasoning traces. Like, they will show you exactly their thinking process. And I think this is something that people will just need to learn how to, I guess, interpret. But I don't think it's like something like incredibly technical that only people that understand tech can do.
Okay, perfect. So let's get to the next place where I'm going to hear people listening to this episode and going, oh, we don't need people. So there are particular things that AI has had some backlash on, like the customer service do loop with several like companies like Verizon or whatever. And people are like, hey, I don't want to be stuck in an AI do loop and AI chat, right? What you are proposing, what your company does, is not consumer facing, not customer facing. Where do you see, or do you see that it'll either mature enough to be customer facing, or do you really see that the benefit is going to be this behind the scenes, the non-consumer facing or non-sales facing roles? Because if you can reduce your back end costs, doesn't that mean you can hire more human facing people?
Yeah, I think both are gonna happen. Like, there's gonna be AI for back office, and there's gonna be AI for kind of consumer-facing roles as well. So AI for back office is obviously the most immediate ROI because it's just so obvious. Like, if you can, automate something that traditionally a human would do and for 1/10 the cost and have it work like a superhuman in the background, like, of course, that makes sense. Consumer-facing is a little harder to implement because the stakes are higher. Like, you don't want AI to go off the rail and do something crazy, and piss off your customers.
Right.
But having said that, JetBlue and Bank of America and some of the largest consumer-facing companies in the world use AI already fully in their business. If you were today call like Chase's customer service, you talk to an AI agent first before you talk to a human. Same for JetBlue. They use AI tools for the entire spectrum of like customer service. So like they only send you to a human if the AI is not able to answer the question. So there's a metric that people use. It's called uh sorry, what's this? Basically the term I forgot the technical term, but it's like
It's okay.
it's what percentage of questions can the AI answer on the first run without human intervention? And that rate has massively decreased. So like traditionally, like like 2 years ago, most of the time people would just transfer to a human. They'd be like, I don't want to talk to an AI. Like just get me a human, right? But now what you can start seeing is AI has become so good and so natural that sometimes you don't even know you're talking to an AI. Like the voice and the intuition and the way it reacts to certain questions is very human-like. And I think this is also kind of where the industry is going. Like a company called Sierra or I don't know if you heard of that company.
I have not,
They
but
they are worth 35 billion US dollars now.
wow.
And yeah, they build AI customer facing chatbots and they're used by some of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world.
And are they doing that to preserve kind of human capital? In other words, if you're calling to see when, we're open, and it's, not obvious from our website or our Facebook group, and I have my own thoughts on people who ask those kinds of questions of customer service people anyway. But if it's something related to um, general information that doesn't require a specific set of facts,
Mhm.
that is where you're seeing this be more successful. Whereas if it's a fact specific problem related to just me and maybe my ticket number or my flight patterns or whatever else have you, do you see that that is the moment where things are going to humans? Because this is the other thing. I know as humans, we like to always think that our problems are unique, right? We always wanna say, "No, no, no, you don't understand,"
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
That's such a human thing to think that because we have an issue, it's an issue that only we have. So I'm kinda curious, from your perspective, are we going to see AI being also able to deal with these very facts heavy, specific, individual
Yeah.
issues versus, just general questions or general issues that maybe a portion of
Well,
consumers would have.
yeah, that's a very good question. So the example you just brought up of like checking a ticket number and then maybe servicing a refund and seeing if the specific request actually adheres to the airline's refund policy. So let's say like a storm happened and for whatever reason you want to refund your ticket and you call the customer service and say that. Sierra and these AI chatbots today are already good enough to actually say, "Hey, sir, wait for a moment. Let me check your ticket number." So then the AI can check the back end system to see, okay, who you are, when did you book, and all this information, and then it will ask you some questions. And the way it asks you the questions is just like a human would. It would first check if the reason for your return matches the airline's policy. So this AI has already been trained to understand what is the specific policy it needs to adhere to. Um, so I think to answer your question, yes, 100%. Obviously, there are going to be like extreme edge cases where the AI will not be able to answer. Like, let's say like the human gets like super pissed and starts like yelling at the AI. I think that's at some point.
That doesn't happen, does it? Does that
I don't know. I mean, I feel like still a percentage. But if that happens, I think, I don't think AI is at the level of like calming down and doing all that. But if it's like a very action oriented thing where like you like in that first example, essentially you need the AI to check internally for certain facts or certain data. After checking that data, adhere to some form of policy that has been pre-arranged, and then asking additional questions if needed to get more information. So I think AI 100% can do that today. And I think it could probably even do it better than some humans simply because AI has a better memory recall. Like you could imagine an airline could have hundreds of policies, maybe, other and as a customer service human, they might also forget. They have to go check and remember like, "Oh, is it okay for me to give you a refund?" But AI can answer that very quickly once it has the information pre-served to it.
Right. Okay. So really what we're saying is, the normal regular run of the mill transactions that a lot of us do, AI is already doing it within the parameters of policy. So it almost becomes this idea where humans really only need to get involved, or at least in the future, it should develop if there's an exception to policy, if there's just something really weird or something that the AI can't recognize.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's go back to sourcing materials, products. Right now, the process probably for a lot of companies is they have to maybe use the chat AI and they say, find me a supplier. And when they find the supplier, they're going to get this list. And then they either have to manually go through and call or they have to send emails to all of these things. So, really, what is the efficiency savings of saying, I'm looking to do this? This is, and I'm sure that there's probably parameters that you need to put in, right? You need to define all the things,
Yeah.
maybe even the price point you're looking for. And then this can even send inquiries to potential suppliers.
Correct. So I think there's basically two things that I could save a lot of time on. One is search. And it's the way it does the searching is not like a Google search or like even asking ChatGPT is first of all, we've trained our system on millions of factory data that we get from supplier disclosures and shipment records. So like you actually can't find this information on Google because a lot of these factories barely have publicly available information. Like they don't have a website. Or even if they do, it's like very bare bones and it's very hard to understand if they're actually reputable. So we actually get data from customs agencies around the world to tell you what customers a supplier already works with. So like let's say you wanted to find a supplier that works with like Lululemon for like yoga pants. Like you could literally search that in our system and our AI can tell you exactly who are the suppliers that work with Lululemon. And second of all, it's able to like go through millions of suppliers and rank all of the top suppliers that match your specific requirement. So you don't have to manually check each supplier and see like if they're a good fit. And then the third thing is obviously just like the communication and the outreach to factories. I think this is probably the most time consuming part of sourcing a product because every requirement is different and you basically have to negotiate back and forth with multiple suppliers and there's a lot of waiting and following up across this. And essentially what you can have AI do is you give it AI a goal. You say, hey, I want to source this product for 500 pieces. I need a target price of $6. Go out there and figure out what suppliers are the best match for this. And the AI would first build a list of maybe like 50 suppliers that best match this high level requirement. And then it will do the heavy lifting job of actually going there and going back and forth with each of the suppliers until it has enough information for you to make a decision on them, who you want to work with. And from what we've seen, what this really allows is expand the pool of suppliers that you have the potential of working with. Because if you do this manually, most people don't have time to reach out to like 50 suppliers. Most people just reach out to the top 3 that they find. But like by reaching out to more, you basically increase the chances of you finding an even better supplier with a better price or better terms.
Yeah, and it's important, that you're using that customs data and those types of things because I think the and on the bottom of every AI that I'm aware of right now, there's a little teeny tiny disclaimer, and it says, "AI can make mistakes.
Yeah.
Please check your work."
Yeah.
Because to your point, as you said, software cannot be responsible. Legally, it cannot be held responsible. If it goes and does a transaction and it tanks a business, the business owner is still ultimately responsible, right?
Yeah.
Because the software can't be held responsible legally or otherwise. So the idea that AI, because of its power, can use more and more second and third and fourth level kind of sources of data that nobody else can get to support its answer, it's kind of a trust but verify thing, right? So you're able to do that. Which industries other than like supply chain sourcing and airlines, AI, customer service, where else do you see industries needing to get trained now to expect this within about the next 18 to 24 months? Because supply chain,
Yeah.
products, but there's other industries that right now might be like, ugh, where it's not coming here, right? And
Yeah.
based on our conversation, it's coming here.
Recruiting for 100%. I think accounting is something that we're seeing a lot of increase in adoption. Legal is, I think, the last industry that people thought AI could be helpful with. And now we actually see a huge traction in AI legal companies helping lawyers save a lot of time doing document work. Um, Let me think. Marketing, I think sales and marketing is probably the biggest impact. I think the sales job in the future will be more or less focused on nurturing relationships and not just like doing, research or mass outreach. I think that will be jobs primarily done by AI. And I guess even retail. Like I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a lot more AI enabled like hardware. Where like at physical stores, AI can help provide better recommendations of products to customers. And potentially even have in the future like robots at retail to help out with some of the repetitive customer, let's say returns or issues related to that. So, yeah, I think AI is gonna go after every industry, but I don't think it's gonna have the unemployment impact that people think it does. Like,
Right.
I actually think human will do more fulfilling work, and AI will replace a lot of the mundane, repetitive work that humans don't like to do anyways.
Right. And that to your point, and I'm going to say this because there's been a lot of news around the fact that developers and programmers have been laid off from some of these large companies because of AI. But I have also seen on the other side that a lot of these programmers and engineers and people who understand the technology are building companies independently, niche companies. There was an AI agent, I saw it on the news, where one AI agent was like a personal assistant and was booking travel. I think you might have
Mhm,
maybe you saw the clip, and
mhm,
then the answer, the travel person or travel agency was also AI, and they switched to another language to facilitate the transaction and make it faster. And what probably would have taken a 45-minute phone call was literally done in about 6 minutes.
mhm.
All of the details, all of the things, booked out all the stuff. Everything was cut, everything was done, and it was very interesting to watch because those 2, independent agents were built by people who worked for other large companies. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on kind of, and again, if it bleeds, it leads. They're yelling about all the engineers losing their jobs or how computer science degrees aren't worth it anymore. But do you see this trend continuing where, yeah, these people who are trained on this stuff are going to go out and actually serve in niche markets and build really cool things like yours for sourcing, to help humans across industries and across, different task needs?
Yeah, I think 100%. And I think what's exciting about this time is that because AI is good at coding now too, you have non-technical people also building incredible tools for their own businesses. So now I don't know if you know the term vibe coding, but like
Mm.
you can build your own AI application without even understanding how to write code because you can just tell the AI to code up an application. Um, and we're seeing that across industries and businesses. Like, there are certain things where let's say you have a very tailored system that you need to build that doesn't exist in the market. Traditionally, you would have to hire, engineers for you to build it because you're not technical. But now, because AI is so good at coding, you can just tell the AI to build the application for you. Obviously, for more complex applications, like what we're doing on sourcing, for
Yeah.
example, I think that will require a little more technical expertise on the engineering front. But what ultimately is going to happen in this industry is there's going to be so much more software in the world because the barrier of creating software has dropped by so much. So that I think that's a very exciting time to be in. There's just going to be so many tools, so many different things that businesses can use to really make their lives easier. And I think that's just going to be a trend that continues.
Amazing. So, do you think the biggest barrier right now is people having a trust, or is it really that people just are unfamiliar and they feel a little unsure about the skill level? Or do you think it's both? Like, where do you see the biggest, 18 to 24 month? What do we need to overcome to make this really that reality?
Yeah, I think one is like skepticism. I think people are overly skeptic on AI and that as a result kind of aren't willing to really experiment with it in real business use cases. Like they use it more for fun or more for personal things, but they won't trust the AI to do actual business workflows, which I think is actually a mistake. And I think like we need to embrace AI more and I think it will have a very very positive impact on both the lives of the workers and for the business. And then I think the second thing is people actually aren't that aware of AI's improvement. Like
Mm.
if you think about how AI was even just 6 months ago compared to now, AI is improving so quickly to the point where it's very hard for regular people to kind of like be updated on and they don't know that like AI has this new capability now. So I think like my advice would be like number one is try to embed AI everywhere that you can and learn as you go. And then number two is be updated on what's happening in the AI industry because this is one of the fastest growing and rapidly evolving industries in the world. And every couple months, there's going to be a new model. There's going to be a new skill that AI can do that it couldn't do even a few months ago.
So, what sources would we want to keep an eye on? Because if you listen to the news,
Yeah.
and the business news, I mean, even CNBC and some of these, and they are at enterprise level and things, and they're, of course, shareholder interests and stuff. Where can we get the real news without having to read an abstract from 4 engineers to keep track of what AI is doing and help us make the decision to maybe trust it more, implement more?
Yeah, I would use AI. That would be my suggestion. I wouldn't read a lot of these news because a lot of these news, their headlines are mainly just to grab attention. So, and I would just ask AI, every couple weeks, what are the newest developments on AI? What are new models, new tools that I should be using? And obviously for every business, like you know, the things that you care about in AI are different than in another business, right? So you can be very tailored in how you ask the AI. Like you can ask the AI, let's say you're in the financial industry, you can say, are there any new AI developments that could help me do X job better? And the AI can maybe recommend new developments or new tools or new models that recently came out.
All right. So we're going to ask the AI to tell us its updates. So that's interesting. The nice thing about AI, and again, I use it for a lot of market research, is you can say, please, give me the sites, right? Let me check what's going on. And there have been more than one instance where, I have to go back and hey, that had that link is broken. Find me another source where I can't use it for my article or whatever. So yeah, I think to your point, the adoption curve is coming. You listed all the industries. And can you tell everyone where they can find you and learn more about your AI agent, particularly if they're in the products business and need suppliers?
Yeah. So our product is free to sign up and try. You can go to sourceready.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. So if you were to search Ricky Ho, SourceReady, you'll find my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. And yeah, I think that's the best way to connect.
All right, perfect. So we'll put that down inside the show notes. If you are a products-based business and you're still manually finding suppliers, this might be a good time to start to move to a more efficient, and it sounds like a much deeper well of potential manufacturers and things, because I do think you're right. As humans, it's like, three's good enough, right? That's kind of what we've been taught. Is you
Yeah.
stop at three and you don't go to 50 because
Yeah.
who has the time? So I think this is an incredible use of AI. And I thank you so much for coming on here and talking about, hey, how AI is just not Google. So thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll talk to y'all next time on the next episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to DawnKKennedy.com, and you can now check us out on YouTube, as well as, of course, any of your favorite platforms that host podcasts. Take care.